I bought the best new designer fragrances of 2024, which is probably a lot more than you may think. From highly anticipated flankers like YSL Y Elixir to unexpected flankers like Valentino Wo Aroma Green Extravaganza, I bought every new fragrance Macy's had that I didn't have, on a quest to find out which of these new fragrances smells the best. So stay tuned to get my take and see how you could potentially get one of these new fragrances for free. First up, at $153, we have Carolina Herrera's Bad Boy Cobalt Elixir. Carolina Herrera's first Bad Boy fragrance was released back in 2019, but in my opinion was overshadowed by fragrances like Dior Sauvage Parfum and Mont Blanc Explorer. However, that didn't stop the show because Cobalt Elixir is like the seventh flanker within the Bad Boy lineup. Like Cobalt Parfum Electrique, Cobalt Elixir is said to be a woody aromatic fragrance and should be perfect for nighttime wear or close encounter activity. That said, I'm expecting that truffle and woodiness from previous flankers to show up in this one as well, but there's only one way to find out. Big old bottle. I'm never going to use all this. Okay, I guess I see where they were going with this one. As Cobalt Elixir being a continuation flanker, as you might expect, on first spray, it doesn't come off as anything super unique. The onset of Cobalt Elixir is sweet and slightly bright, but there's also this earthiness to the fragrance as well. According to Macy's, Cobalt Elixir starts off with this sage and black pepper in the top, then that black truffle and resinous woods that I mentioned earlier are present in the heart, and vanilla and labdanum round out the base. Now, depending on where you are in your fragrance journey, I'm not sure I would classify the opening of this fragrance as super enjoyable. As you might expect, this isn't one of the most natural fragrances on the market today, which isn't exclusive to Cobalt Elixir, and I would say it's probably par for the course when it comes to many of the designer and niche fragrances that are on the market today. Ideally, I would say wear this one in the fall and winter, but you could probably get away with it on those cooler spring days as well. Next, at $183, we have Burberry Hero Parfum, and this one was made to be a more intense offering of the EDT and the EDP. Not only is it a more intense concentration, it's also a more intense price point. It's like all of these new fragrances are coming at a price points many would have considered their max for top tier fragrances, but now it's like the cost of entry. And speaking of max, if you're looking to save some coin, then look no further than today's video sponsors, my good friends over at maxaroma.com. Providing customers access to high quality fragrances is what they do. Not only does Max Aroma offer a wide selection of niche, designer, and hard to find fragrances, but they do it without the luxury price tag. Plus, if you use my code or the link down below, you get access to exclusive promotions, and you can also sign up for their text and email notifications. Sponsorship aside, I've been a Max Aroma customer for years, and their Aroma Club program rewards you for your loyalty. You get special discounts, free gifts, and an unparalleled premium customer experience. Click the link below to head over to Max Aroma and get the most bang for your buck today. Now that I've introduced you to the heroes of your fragrance budget, let's go ahead and hop back into this fragrance. The original Burberry Hero fragrance was meant to be a woody, fresh fragrance that played on the note of cedarwood. Now that cedarwood also carried over to the Eau de Parfum version. Think something more resinous like amber and woods. As you may know, I've been a huge supporter of Burberry fragrances, but more specifically, my allegiance has been to Burberry Touch. Most of their fragrance releases as of late have felt a bit uninspiring, but we'll see if anything has changed with this one. On first spray, this one smells pretty good. The approach is a bit darker and more resinous than what you would experience in the EDT and the EDP, and I feel like so far, this one's not bad. To me, Burberry Hero Parfum comes off as sophisticated. It does have a sensual nature to it, but the woody notes here and then amber are truly present. Of the three fragrances, this one does have a more mature feel to it. So if you were looking for a fragrance that didn't have an abundance of sweetness, then this is a fragrance that you might be drawn to. Now, don't get me wrong, it does still have a sweet feel to it, but it doesn't come off as juvenile. If Burberry Hero EDT was Bruce Wayne, then the Parfum version would be Batman. I could see the wearer of this fragrance feeling like they could take on many things, especially a date night, but I'm going to say there might be other things on the market for that $183 price point, a bit more worth the bang. But overall, on first impression, not a bad fragrance. Next at $125, we have Valentino Wo Green Stravaganza. Without knowing much about this fragrance, the name alone would lead me to believe that this fragrance would be good for the spring and or summer. However, over the years, I've learned to never judge a fragrance by its name. Based on the name and presentation of this fragrance, I would think that this fragrance is similar to Valentino Wo Aqua, which in my opinion was a criminally underrated fragrance from the house. Now, according to the Macy's website, Valentino Wo Born Aroma Green Stravaganza is an ambery fougere and features fresh green notes, woods, vetiver, and the coffee accord, which is totally different than Valentino Wo Aqua, because that one's founded on iris, mandarin, and tomato. All right, so I like the presentation of this one. That green there, again, would make me think it's a green, but there's a coffee accord here, so I'm a little confused. This one starts off with a subtle sweetness, and it also has a subtle hint of earthiness with it. Traditionally with those Valentino Wo fragrances, specifically Born Aroma, there's an abundance of sweetness within this fragrance, but here, so far, I feel like it's toned down a bit. If you're familiar with this fragrance line, then think of a darker take on that bubblegum feel from that Born Aroma lineup that we've all grown accustomed to. Despite the coffee note within this fragrance, I am still getting a spring-esque feel with this fragrance, but I don't find this to be an overly green fragrance. The bergamot in the top gives it an enjoyable citrus twist, while that coffee and vetiver likely darken this fragrance up a bit more, making it more mature and more masculine than some of the fragrances that have come before it within the lineup. Now, given that, I don't find that coffee note to be super present within this fragrance and nearly undetectable, at least on the strip. In fact, I would venture to say that coffee note isn't present at all. But I'm also drinking coffee, so you never know. D&G K Eau de Parfum Intense is up next, and it's the third installment within the K series of their fragrance lineup. Coming in at $153, this one's based on the notes of saffron, leather, and fig. I can't say that I've always been the biggest supporter of the K collection of fragrances, but we'll see what the Eau de Parfum Intense has to offer. It came with a little card on the inside, and it says, "This fragrance has been created in Italy using the highest quality materials selected according to the fine fragrance criteria." I'll be the judge of that, D&G. Now, one thing I always liked and thought was a little cheesy with this K collection of fragrances is the cap. They all come with these caps that are a little cheesy, but also pretty cool at the same time. Now, we know there's only one true crown fragrance, and that's going to be the Crown Fragrance Collection or Clive Christian. I think their crowns are better. But for $175, they should be. There's a lot and not enough going on with this fragrance at the same time. There's this hodgepodge of fragrance notes here that, in my opinion, don't come together extremely well. It's supposed to open up with saffron, then transition to a bit of that fig, but the leather is supposed to be present in the base, and what I'm getting here is something that's spicy, but not a good spice. It smells like something my grandfather would have worn back when I was like 5, and it's not aging well. That said, similar to the others that we've talked about today, if you're looking for a more mature take on the K lineup of fragrances, then this would be it, but this is not one that I would say I would recommend. The fragrance story behind the Eau de Parfum Intense version of K is supposed to be one of seduction, and I don't think any woman is going to be seduced by this fragrance. Likely are going to be off-put. Off-put may be a bit of a stretch, but I don't think that anyone's going to want to be your cuddle buddy wearing this fragrance. It's semi-clean, semi-spicy, very similar to an overpriced shower gel that I would elect to wash up with something else. The next fragrance comes in at $180 for 60 ml, effectively making it the most expensive fragrance on our list today, and that fragrance is none other than YSL Y Elixir. At the same rate, it's probably the most anticipated fragrance of all the ones we spoke of today. Last year, YSL threw us a curveball with the release of Myself, and because of the similarities in presentation, many people thought that they were done with the Y collection of fragrances. But they said no. Do you actually think we would miss out on the opportunity to sell you the same fragrance DNA for the 8th time in a row? I think not. Dominique Robillon is the master perfumer behind Y Elixir, and he wanted this fragrance to be a hot take on the Y series of fragrances. Think of it being richer, more woody, and more intense. But was his mission accomplished? Generally speaking, this one has that same mass appealing DNA that we've come to expect within the YSL lineup, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's clean, and in the past, I've described Y fragrances as juicy. I would say that this one leans more to the side of dry. My initial thoughts is that this one's a good fragrance. Like the Dior Sauvage Elixir, I would say that the YSL Y Elixir would resonate a bit more with the more mature crowd. And that's something we've seen as a common theme throughout the fragrances we discussed today. But in my opinion, this is by far the best fragrance we've discussed today. If you're a business professional over the age of 35, you would feel confident giving YSL Y Elixir a shot. And no, I don't think that this means that if you are younger, you're not going to like this fragrance. I feel that this one gives the YSL Y fragrance collection some reign. The lavender there gives it this clean, fresh, and spicy opening, along with that geranium to add this floral component. And ultimately, in my opinion, the frankincense is more prominent here than the oud. I don't get any detectable oud at the moment from this one. And overall, I would say that this is a fragrance that I'm digging, and a lot of you out there will likely dig as well. Here's the deal. If you want one of these fragrances for free, comment down below and let me know which of these fragrances you resonate most with. And I'll be selecting one of you as a random winner to take home the bottle of your choice. I know the fragrance world moves fast, so if you haven't already, check out this video here where I unbox the best fragrances of 2023.